Yeah, before we did this episode, the last few weeks I have been like researching some of the history of this game because it is an important game, and it seemed like at multiple times throughout its development, it almost just didn't exist. The game came about because Sakurai, in a surprising twist of fate, is a fan of one of the most complicated fighting game series of all time, King of Fighters, and apparently he was really big into King of Fighters '96. So he was at like a tournament or something, and he played against this guy who was not very good, and he beat him like he beat him with that like within like an inch of his life. He had like the guy had no chance on beating Sakurai at a King of Fighters '96, which made Sakurai feel bad because he was like, man, this guy just couldn't compete with me. So he had this idea, like, what if I made a fighting game where like everybody was on equal footing almost, kind of like a casual fighting game, which is again like Teddy said, how they sold it as like a casual game. So he had the idea to work on Dragon King, the fighting game was the original name for Smash, where they just used like generic models. And there was three people working on it at the time as like a side project, basically in their free time. They pitched it to Nintendo, and Nintendo said no. There's not any like iconic characters or anything in this. It won't sell. No, we're not making it. So then he goes to Iwata, and Iwata's still at HAL at the time, and they're talking and stuff. And Iwata's like, well, Sakurai comes up with the idea of using Nintendo characters. And Iwata's like, well, he's like, I'll talk to Miyamoto about it, see what he thinks. And Iwata goes to Miyamoto, talks to him about it, and Miyamoto says no, like you can't have Mario beat up Link, like that's not gonna fly. So then Iwata goes back to Sakurai and says, "Yeah, keep working on it." He didn't tell him that Miyamoto said no, so because he thought if he finished the prototype with the Nintendo characters and pitched it to Nintendo, they would approve it. So he went ahead and did that, and I mean, and that's what happened. Nintendo of Japan was a little more hesitant of their characters fighting each other for obvious reasons because they're more like protective of that stuff. So they were like, I don't know if the Japanese audience will want to see our loved characters beating each other up. Of course, Nintendo of America fucking loved the idea, and we ran with it. We had the ads of the mascots beating the shit out of each other and stuff. We
Yeah.
we we live for that stuff. But obviously, the game did happen. They did allow them to make it. It was a rush development, though, which is why this game's kind of bare bones, and why I said like it feels like the prototype to Melee in a lot of ways. Um, but obviously now Smash is probably their like outside of Mario Kart, probably their biggest franchise that they that they really own now. Maybe Pokemon, I don't know. But Smash makes a shit ton of money, and it's always like whenever there's a Smash announcement, like everybody pays attention. It's just funny to think that like multiple times throughout this game's development, it almost just didn't happen. And the Nintendo we know today would be very different because there's people now that buy these consoles just to play Smash Bros. So yeah, that's the history of Smash Bros.
It's interesting because I don't know why, like with the rushed N64 games, how they end up being so good sometimes. Like this one and Majora's Mask are kind of like the signature. Oh, we did this in a year type of game, and this, despite being quote unquote rushed, it really is competent in many ways. It has a strong single player mode with unlockables. The multiplayer is phenomenal. You have break the targets. You have the stage run. There's really so much to enjoy here. Almost infinitely replayable. Like I adore this game.
Yeah, they were smart about a lot of the stuff they reused and the assets. The unlockable characters, basically the only original one is Ness because Luigi is just reskin Mario with different move stuff. Captain Falcon reuses the models they made for Dragon King, the fighting game. That's why he's here. And Jigglypuff is Kirby. So they were smart about reusing some assets to make new characters.
But Captain Falcon is still original.
No, he
That's
is, but like the character, like they used him because the character model matched him, and they were like, we
right,
can
but,
make
but
him
that
that
was
character
originally
model.
made at some point, so that is still original.
Yeah, but like, I'm saying they reused the character model from that prototype to make Captain Falcon. That's why he made it into the game. Like they didn't make a whole new character. They just said, oh, we have this humanoid looking guy they just gave that model like some of the animations from Samus, and they were like,
Mhm.
okay, Captain Falcon, So that's basically why he made it in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't. You say that this feels like a prototype. I disagree. I feel like it. To me, it feels like what it sounds like it was just like a labor of love, like an actual like people that wanted to make a game, like not weren't told to, but just wanted to make a game, and this is what they had limited. They had like to be creative because they weren't given a lot of resources, and they wanted to make the best fighting game or Nintendo characters duke it out as they could, and to that I feel the passion and the love and the curiosity within it. And to me, that makes it just amazing. I love it.
I just love the idea of Iwata knowing Miyamoto's bullshit even back then and being like, no, just go ahead and make it. We'll get it to work. Just go ahead and do it.
I think I hear stories about that all the time with everything where they're like, this almost didn't happen. I like that just kind of happens in a corporate environment
Yeah.
where things are constantly like in limbo to a certain extent. So I think saying that this almost didn't happen is kind of a stretch. I think most things kind of almost don't happen because of like various political machinations and stuff in the corporate world. But
I guess. Still. I mean,
like I get my favorite is when people are like, "Yeah, Star Wars almost didn't happen. It was saved in the editing room." It's like every movie was saved in the editing room.
Well,
That's literally
Star
a lot
Wars
of the
would have
point.
happened. It would have been a worse movie though.
Well, but that's ridiculous because every movie gets edited. Like
Yeah,
to assume that movies don't get edited, like okay,
But
they just use the raw footage.
you don't think
like
this is
ridiculous.
different because one man had so much of a say over these characters with Miyamoto? Because I mean, most of the characters in this game
Well-
are Miyamoto characters, outside of
Mhm.
like the Pokemon and what Ness and Kirby. But I mean, well, I don't know who did he make F-Zero. Who did F-Zero? I don't even know who did F-Zero. But all the other characters are Miyamoto characters, so he, 75% of the roster is his say.
Well, was Miyamoto the president of Nintendo?
No, but he was more into the game development back then.
Well,
than
because
he
that's the thing is
now.
it's like, I mean, you could say comes to him, but eventually it comes down to the CEO or the president, whatever structure they have. That would
Yes, it's
be,
true.
but it's like, it could have been that he just vetoed the idea, and like not having seen it. They have a big process,
Yeah.
like, and he just hadn't seen it yet. I don't know. I get suspect when I hear this game almost never happens. Like, well, most things have opportunities where they like break points.
At the very least, Miyamoto didn't want it to happen, and he was being classic Miyamoto.
Yeah, that is undeniable there. Again, that's definitely a Miyamoto move. Like, no, Link and Mario can't fight. They're good guys.
No,
They're the
I made
heroes.
them in my sketch pad. Mr.
I
Miyamoto,
mean, but
calm down
again,
a
to
little
counter
bit.
To counter that, Mario Kart had already been out, and they shot each other with stuff. And I believe the 64 version had battle mode. Did it?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
Super Nintendo one had it, I think.
even that
So-
one. I mean, not 64, but even the one on Super Nintendo has a really complicated history of development. So
But even Mario Kart is
Yeah.
not 1-to-1. I mean, if the idea is like a fighting game, like I understand why that might be a little like tense. Oh, we don't want to make we've been making, I don't want to call them kids games, but games that are for everybody. And then you want to say like, let's have them beat each other up. Like I could see how as an original idea that could be, I don't know, risque.
I feel like the workaround was Hal being like, okay, stop. They're not the characters, they're dolls. And then that's probably how Miyamoto was like, oh,
I could see that.
sounds like something they would do to get around Miyamoto. No, wait, they're dolls of the characters.
It turns out they're dolls the whole time. Yeah, I could see that. Hence the low poly count.
Yeah, it's a kid playing with dolls. He was like, okay, I agree to that.
All right, Miyamoto, whatever makes you happy.
Hey y'all, don't forget to subscribe to them button mappers.